G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is an Institute Particle Accelerator cannon, not necessarily in that order. This weapon is part of a mod called Institute Technology Overhaul Weapons, which adds a whole bunch of extra weapons into the Institute's arsenal, so it'll actually make Sins a little bit more of a threat, so best be siding with the Institute now that these weapons are in the Commonwealth, because in the normal game, you've got just the Institute laser guns, which are just inferior to the standard vanilla game pre-war laser guns, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but at least the beam's blue, so that's cool, right? Anyway, so what you were looking at here is a heavy laser weapon. It's an automatic laser, so it's not like a Spartan laser. Think of it as like a shoulder-mounted assaultron head, except the beam will be blue instead of red, which has its own problems, which we'll get to in a little bit, but the concept on this thing is cool. It uses the same animations as a tri-barrel missile launcher. That little sled there is actually your reload thing. You'll hold on to that carry handle thing and pull that sled off, put a new one on. That's how you reload. You can see there's fusion core stuffed in there. We'll get into the customization. There's not a whole lot going on here, but there's a couple of interesting things that I want to mention. First of all, we've got the fusion core ammo pack at the moment. You can change that to plasma core. That'll actually change your beam and a little bit of greebling from blue to green, but you'll actually lose out on damage, and for some reason my munitions version doesn't actually support the use of plasma cores, so that's just infinite ammo if I want to do that, but we're losing out on damage anyway, as appealing as a giant green beam would be. I could pretend that I'm the Death Star from Star Wars, back when Star Wars used to be good. Now, like the sights on a missile launcher, you get reflex sights. That's not actually like the sights on a missile launcher, but that's a thing. You can also have a night vision scope or a standard scope. A scope on this thing is actually kind of useful because with the, I mean, it's a little bit too much of a zoom in, but just to get your aim on a crosshair, I think is a little bit more precise than any other options we've got here, because sometimes the weapon sort of gets in your way because it's such a giant thing on the side of your screen, so clearing that out entirely I think is a cool idea. Also, the scopes are linked. There's one down there linked to the bottom one there. That's neat. I quite like that idea, but we'll definitely grab one with a reflex sight a little bit later, of course, just so we can show off what that's like. You can put a bayonet on the front, which doesn't reduce your range and makes it look... I'm getting Northfleet vibes out of that. Northfleet from Borderlands 2, but I don't think that's... This is nothing what a Northfleet looks like, but we'll roll with it. Next up, Legendary Effect is there if you need it. We will not. I think Explosive on this would be brilliant, but we won't do that. And you can improve this thing's damage by changing the receivers. Same as a laser gun receiver, so scroll all the way down and find overcharged capacitor for the best amounts of damage. Don't even bother with these crit ones. That's where the problems lie. Again, we'll get to that later, but don't bother with critting with this thing ever. And next up, we've got some Creation Club materials here, which all work, including the Institute one, which makes it look like that. That's unheard of. But there's also weathered ones, so if you want to make this thing look a little bit more weathered, actually that looks like a stealth Institute weapon. I actually kind of dig that look. It doesn't look dirty at all. Weird, huh? Anyways, so you've got Atom Cat paint, Brotherhood of Steel paint, Child of Atom paint, also Gunner's paint, and Railroad paint, which it's all compatible with this thing. So yeah, obviously they're using the same textures and UVs as the vanilla game weapons, and it all works together, which is a little bit extra if you've gone ahead and bought those or snagged them once they're free, because they tend to go free every once in a while, but that's cool. We're going to paint one with Brotherhood of Steel because we like irony, and we'll get to shooting some of these gunners, eh? In order to get this weapon, this mod actually contains its own little crafting workbench here, which you can use to fabricate the weapons just like that for absolutely no cost in gun nut or science for some reason. So you can just have this right out the bat if you want. There's the Institute Accelerator cannon, and that's what the workbench looks like. That's pretty neat, right? Yes. And I'm just gonna double check this and say it looks like the Institute weapon fabricator doesn't require perks to craft either. So that's just a bunch of free Institute weapons for you at the start of the game if you can find these components. Lovely. Okay, so this one right here has got the overcharged capacitor and the plasma core ammo pack, right? And the damage right now is currently about, well, it's inferior to the standard laser beam cannon. But, however, if you decide to put on a bayonet, that'll actually increase the damage by a substantial margin. So there you go. Put knives on the front of this, and I don't know, maybe they're magnetized and they guide the plasma to be better or something, but probably a bug. I'm gonna roll with it. Righto, so here we are outside of the Immersive Gunners Plaza. Here is our Accelerator cannon in first person. Taking a quick look down the sights. Yep, that's just a standard long scope that you'd find on a missile launcher, so that's pretty good. But I do quite like the paint on this thing. The Brotherhood of Steel sleek dark grey mixed with the bright blue glow maps of this weapon I think look really nice, and the Northfleet vibes, they're still rolling in. But I've got this one here, Plasma, with the standard paint. It's got the green glow maps on it, which I think is aesthetically pleasing as well. But I'm interested to see how this thing goes, and this is what this thing looks like in first person, by the way. A little bit constricted by the sheer size of the weapon, but will be slightly better off at close range whilst aiming down that reflex sight. Let's begin, shall we? Now, what we want to do is, I think they've already taken out the bugs that usually invade Gunners Plaza, so that means we might be able to get a couple of cheeky stealth kills with this thing. But you didn't think I'd be using this thing stealthily, did you? Okay, so firstly, as you fire this thing, the recoil is going to make it a very bumpy ride when you fire this thing and hold down the trigger, which is... it's not going to make your mouse move a lot. In fact, I'm just going to let this thing go to demonstrate the recoil. You'll slowly burn the walls in a somewhat upward direction, but it's nothing you can't control just by either pulling the mouse down or reeling it in when the recoil decides to bounce a little bit more than average, an outlier on the recoil multiplier, as it were. The only problem I'm getting with actually aiming at targets is the impact of this laser, of course being of the Institute laser, is very large, and what that means is your target is completely obscured behind the glowing power of the actual impact of the projector, which we're firing heaps of. And we're going to keep firing this laser beam one. We won't reload on this thing until we are actually officially out of bullets. And to get those precision shots behind gunners hiding behind trees, this is a pretty good weapon for that, I suppose. It's a pretty easy weapon to use. The damage is not going to be out of this world crazy, but I don't think it needs to be for a weapon like this, because it's going to be fairly consistent for you. You just need to find the ammo to run it, because a weapon like this, you can just keep firing all day. So if your aim's a little bit off, eventually, through massive volume of fire, eventually, you're going to do the job, which is fine. We're going to keep our ground just behind this truck here. I feel like that's the way to go. And I just feel like this thing's slightly faster when you're aiming down sights, which I don't think is intentional, but regardless, let's move on. This one here is the plasma version, doing 39 from back there, probably not in this weapon's optimum range. I feel like this thing's a little bit cleaner on its projectiles for its impacts, and it's got this nice glowing green part of it, which I think it's suiting. Now, normally this thing, and I'll go back to this. So this is the VATS problem I mentioned. I'm going to hit this gunner up a couple of times in VATS. No, it's an Assaultron beam, and they don't work in VATS at all. And I'm missing the required ammo here, so I couldn't even VATS this thing if I wanted to. But I can fire it. I'm thinking here that this projectile might be slightly different in a way that would actually allow me to use it in VATS. But so far, I've got no evidence to actually prove that, other than just saying because the projectiles look slightly different. But I would assume that it'd be pretty much the same. It's a hit scan green projectile instead of blue, so there's that. And we're using the standard impacts of the plasma gun to accentuate that attack. Tell you what, that Creation Club Gauss rifle hits pretty hard, considering what other caliber weapons we've been fired at with, and you put that down right now. It seems that the recoil on this thing is only really magnified and, I suppose the word is, exemplified? Exaggerated, looking down the scope, because there is barely any... I don't have to wrestle with this thing at all, at least with the plasma variant, and then third person as well. I feel like it's a pretty accurate weapon. Aim high on these guys because you want that extra DPS, of course, but if you don't aim high, then you're gonna give up precious time to kill, and you don't want to do that, do you? There's one there. That's an anti-material rifle. And I think we're pretty much almost done with this lot. We've got a couple more to kill, but we're running a little bit low on health at this stage, but I think we'll be just fine. This is the perfect time to be using a laser one. Look, there are 4 gunners left. The game's just crashed, but I think you get the idea. Alright, so I don't know how this thing's going to go against a monster, but we'll give it a crack anyway. First of all, this super mutant's got to go down. There we go, that's him sorted. And now I get to shoot at Swan, but not from back here, because having a scope on this thing with a limited projectile range is... well, it's not how I would have made this thing, but that might just be because the projectile's a little bit fickle. We're getting 21 damage from all the way back here. What else is it? Okay, he's running towards me now. I don't want that. Go and attack your other friends, and then once you're finished with those, then I can get those sneak criticals, because those bloody multipliers, I need them, alright? There we go. Well, we're getting a whopping 32, 40 damage now. Actually, I think he's attacking something else. Probably try to get some headshots to squeeze that extra DPS out. 108 damage. Okay. No more sneak criticals for me. And maybe we just hip fire this thing. And not take his rocks. Never mind. It's still hitting me despite all I'm doing. This is the lean mod, baby. It's working out pretty well. And there's also a ghoul? I think that's... yeah, that is a ghoul. Usually a ghoul shows up for some reason. It's usually a reaver, though. I think he's stuck behind a tree, which is great, because I could just toast his face until he's dead. But whether I get all of that damage off before I perish, I'm not really sure. So it looks like with the plasma, we're getting 133 damage in comparison to the laser version's 108. So about a 25 to 30% damage increase there. And the DPS, you can stack it on pretty fast, not having to get yourself interrupted for reloads. Are you going to attack me or just going to stand there? Well, if you wanted a damage simulator, here you go. There is nothing you can do. He's powerless. He has to sit there and take it. Skyrim Mammoth style. And a few more seconds. There we go. Well, that worked. Well, there you go. And what else have we got? Someone shooting? Ah, it's just a Rust Devil. Yep. Really told you that we're done. What is that? That's a Gauss shotgun. Who she killed herself with, because Ricochet. Yeah. Perfect. Alright. I'm gonna add the explosive legendary effect on this just to see what happens. Okay, so I've added the plasma core pack to the scoped sleek colored version and the explosive legendary effect, and I'm reading 400 ballistic and 117 energy damage. That's possibly a Halo reference, maybe a reference to a Spartan laser. Alright, so I don't usually break weapons or mods like this, but in the interest of keeping you guessing, we're going to do this. And someone over there has a staggering weapon that I don't appreciate. But we'll start off by shooting at this particular behemoth, who I don't know if we're in danger from this guy now, but he's not walking this way, so maybe he's not. He's charging over there. Now, the good thing about these projectiles is the bullets, they just keep going. They don't just fizzle out after like 500 or so meters, or even less than that, but that allows us to just keep on firing, and he's such a big dude that we're not going to miss. And down he goes. Easy as that. And now we can continue to snipe at the rest of them. Who's that? Ooh, someone over there's got a grenade launcher. Ooh, yes, that's a dangerous grenade launcher. We've got to take him out. I actually think that guy dropped a few super mutants whilst he was there. That gunner, obviously, a little bit overqualified compared to the rest of them that we've got today. But even the mighty super mutant warlords can't withstand the power of this thing as we run past some rad barrels, recharge the old energy shields, and we should be able to stop outside the front here and pretty much kill everything. Hello, mutants? Oh, some of them are nightkin. Are they? I think? No. I think I uninstalled that mod because fighting invisible super mutant warlords was frustrating because they're tanky. I'd rather see them so I can VATS them for extra damage. Anyways, we'll just fire Nope, the Nightkins are still around. Just gonna add a mental note to remove them. I'd like it if they were implemented slightly better. Yeah, Nightkin, they're cool, they're from New Vegas, but they gotta decloak when they attack you, otherwise it's just, you're fighting the invisible giant man. I think that's not as compelling as being, like, preyed upon by an invisible giant mutant. He'll only reveal himself once he's ready to attack. Does that make more sense? I reckon it does. Because at the moment, this place is absolutely chockers full of dudes, and also they've got flashbangs. I'm gonna get smacked in the back of the head whilst I'm incapacitated. Where'd that guy go? Took my eyes off him and off he went. Anyways, yeah, despite being hit by that particularly nasty flashbang, things are going pretty well here, I suppose. And unfortunately, that guy's using a weapon with obvious traces. And looks like that's about it for the gauntlet. So yeah, just crushed everything pretty easily there. No surprise, it's an explosive heavy gun, so there's a bit of double dipping, and there's something wrong with the bayonet attachment on a plasma version. Unless that the plasma version actually gets its true amount of damage with the bayonet, but not really sure. But regardless, that there was the Accelerator cannon, Institute Accelerator cannon, with a particle somewhere along the title. And Lily, we've talked about this. So that's just a bug that's been in Fallout 4 since its inception, and no one knows how to get rid of or fix. There's workarounds to it, but those mods cause problems themselves. We'll just forget that ever happened. But yes, Institute Accelerator cannon. I highly recommend this mod. Of course, it's attached to the Institute Technology Overhaul, which adds a bunch of extra weapons, and it's a pretty lightweight mod, like 200 megabytes in total. Most of the textures would be used, of course, from the vanilla game, so that's going to bring it down a significant amount. But it's a damn good weapon mod to have because it's lightweight, it gives the Institute a little bit more depth, and it adds more guns to the game. So what more could you want? So if you've got an Institute playthrough going right now and you want to use some on-theme weapons, then I highly recommend this. But other than that, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, guys.